Merkel Media.
He put it in park, threw open the driver's door, ran out the side of the car, across the front of it, and jumped right off the side of the bridge in front of me.
The only people who really pulled over were truckers.
He said, we're going hot, and he didn't slow down. He went across the median onto the oncoming traffic, but where they could see him coming, they just got out of the way.
I noticed his plane was really low. He went right in front of us, hit the fence, and it spun around. 30 seconds more, he could have hit us.
And I went around that truck, and a guy stepped out from behind the truck and threw a piece of wood, and it shot through my window just like a spear and stuck in the back of the cab of my truck.
That's probably one of the stranger things I've seen.
Welcome to the show, everybody. You're listening to Hammer Lane Legends. I am Tony, and alongside of me is my dad, Brian. Dad, how you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. So I'm really excited about today's show. But before we get to the guest, I just want to let everybody know that if you're listening to our voice right now, and you're driving truck down the highway, or you've driven truck in the past, or even if you're a police officer, an EMT, and you have some kind of wild stories you'd like to share with us from the Hammer Lane, go ahead and shoot us an email at hammerlanelegends@gmail.com. That's hammerlanelegends@gmail.com, and you can shoot us your story there. We'll correspond with you, and we'll arrange a time for you to come on and record and talk with us and hang out, have a conversation, and tell some wild stories, because that's what we're all about here on Hammer Lane Legends. Dad, you and I talked for, I'd say, about 30 minutes on the very first episode of the show,
right.
And we shared some of our experiences, and you have more experiences than I do. Obviously, you've been at it longer.
Right.
But, I was driving this week, and I wound up finding myself in my trailer going off-road up a hill on a dirt road. No, I'm just kidding. I'm trying to sound cool to Todd, who is our guest, because
well, we're not going to be that cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at some of the clips and stuff on YouTube. Our guest today is Todd Dewey from Ice Road Truckers and Axemen, and I'm looking at some of the clips and stuff on YouTube, and I'm just like, holy crap, some of the things these guys have to go through. When I first started driving trailer, I thought, I think I want to try doing the Ice Road Trucker one day. Right. And my wife is like, absolutely not, never, no way. So on that note, Todd, how you doing, man?
Hey, good to have me on, guys. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great, man. Doing great.
Well.
So, Todd, I mean, you just heard that, and I did some research, and is this how it goes when it comes to like the Ice Road Trucker thing? It's kind of hard to get into unless you know somebody. Is that really the case?
Yeah. It's kind of a funny story how I got into the Ice Road Trucking. So, obviously, I was born up here in Washington State, the farthest northwest corner you could get, right in the mountains. I mean, if you want to run the word hillbilly, you wouldn't be more correct. I mean, I'm in the spot where, I actually even have a phone call with you. I have to get the right location, even where my home is or where I live at. My cell phone doesn't work very good. So it's hard to even get service anywhere out here. And it was really funny with your opening statement talking about you actually drove off-road, you hit some dirt, you were getting freaked out. Oh, my gosh. Some of the stories, if I could bring you up here for 2 days, what we do out in the woods every day, and these trucks push them to their limits, you probably would be scared that everyone to get in the truck again.
That I believe.
It's just incredible out here. But here's what I got into. You asked about the Ice Road Truckers. How'd you get into it? How'd it happen? Yeah, not anybody can just go and apply and get in. It's kind of a freak way it happened. So, and this is a true story. I was a truck boss for my family for many years for Gabe Reigard, who my cousin, that's family, which he was killed almost 4 years ago now in a car wreck, literally just down the road from a house on the road.
Wow, I'm really sorry to hear that. That's for sure.
One day I was running the truck. It was a Friday afternoon. It was late, long week. I mean, we push our long truck hours up here. We push anywhere from a 12-hour day to an 18-hour day is just our normal day of logging in the woods. That's just the typical everyday driving. So Friday night, I was wanting to get home. One of my drivers got into a wreck, and the insurance company, I was coming back from a little town called Shelton from dumping a little logs at the mill. And typical truck driver, I'm on the way home anyway. I got a 2.5-hour drive home. Why not just run right back up in the mountains and grab another load to bring it home? Even though I just wanted to get home and deal with this crap, I was like, I don't care. I got to get another load. I got to make more money. So went up the hillside there, way up the top of the mountain. I get up there. Well, at this point in time of the year, we were filming the Axeman show. So when I backed my truck in there, the shovel's sitting there in the landing, load of logs. There's nobody around. Instantly, I'm pissed. I'm just mad at how because there's nobody there to load me. I'm looking for a quick load, so I need to get to town before the insurance, the deal with the insurance and the wrecked truck and all that, So I get in I back my truck up to the shovel. I get in the shovel and I grab a hold of my trailer on the back of my truck and I'm just yanking the pole. I'm not being very nice about it because I'm really throwing a rigging fit. Well, I go to set my trailer on the side of the other side of the landing there to set my trailer down so I can get back in my truck to drive forward. That way with the trailer back on the road. When I set the trailer, let go with the grapples. The trailer rolls down the brushes down the frickin' hillside. So now I'm really throwing a fit. So then I go to open the window on the front of the shovel, and the shovel window won't open because it's an old beat-up shovel that's all gapped up from the guys using it. So here I am throwing a fit, so I just take my foot and start kicking the window. I broke and shattered the whole window out of the front so I could see out the front of the shovel to reach down the hill to get this trailer back on. Well, this whole time I was in this process of doing this, the filming crew was up interviewing my cousin Gabe on the side of the hill because it was their end of the day. And then at the end of the day on Friday, the filming, they want to do all their end of the day interviews with the guys that were working all day. That's why there was nobody around. So one of the producer guys was watching me do this. And he asked Gabe, he goes, "Are you watching this guy down there?" And Gabe goes, "Oh yeah, this is my cousin. He's having a fit. Leave him alone. Don't bug him. Just let him do what he's doing." And the guy's all, No. Is he actually a truck driver? And Gabe says, "Yeah." And he goes, "We're actually looking for one new contestant this year on the Actual Trucker Show. I think this guy would be perfect." He goes, "If you want to go talk to him, you go ahead, go talk to him." That's how the whole thing happened. Time I got my truck loaded, got it in there, I jumped in the truck, and there's a camera guy in there, and I was like, "What the hell do you think?" He's like, "I need an interview." We gave an interview. And of course, it was a long conversation about an interview for what, and anyway, long story short, I ended up doing the interview in the town, and he did some personal questions because he talked to Gabe about some other issues or wanted to know kind of about me while I was doing this whole thing. Well, my father passed away a long time ago, and that's how I got into trucking because my dad was a trucker and owned his own log trucks. And he started to ask me these questions about this, and I said, "Hey, that's none of your business." What my dad, that's a personal side of me. Well, the guy kept pushing. He just wouldn't quit. Long story short, I ended up smacking him, knocking the camera out of his hand, driving a little log truck down the highway. This is a true story. I ain't fabricating this at all. Wow. Well, I get home and I told my wife at interview. She asked me how it went. I said, yeah, it didn't go very well. I don't think I'm going to get that job. And they ended up calling me and saying, "Hey, you're one of the candidates for Ice Trucker Show. We loved the interview." And I'm like, "Hey, well, I got to ask you guys, why would you pick me after what happened?" He said, "If you smacked that camera guy and we got all that emotions on that thing, it was absolutely brilliant."
Oh, I hear that.
And that's how
awesome.
I got the position on Ice Truckers.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that when you were saying about how you were down there throwing a fit and, your cousin's like, "Oh, just leave him alone" and stuff. The TV crew is like, "No, this is TV gold." Okay.
That's just it. That's why they bought into the whole situation. They're like, "Holy shit, this guy is completely out of his freaking mind. He's perfect. It's exactly what we're looking for." And the reason they had a position open at the time, and this is from what they told me, was because they used to have a guy on there named Rick Yelm. I'm sure you remember him. Remember the guy had the blue mohawk?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess he ended up getting into a drug situation, got into a bad drug addict, and they let him go off the TV show. So they're looking for one new character. So that's the reason they were out scouting. But they don't put out, they don't put it on online or paper or anything like that at this point in time. When they were out filming the TV shows, all their producers, the filmer guys, they would tell them, "Hey, if you're into a trucker with a lot of character, get an interview, and then we'll," you know what I mean? That's how they were finding people for these jobs. So basically, I was just at the right place at the right time, and that's how I got on the Ice Truckers. So that's quite a wild ride.
Yeah, and it probably did help a lot that you already were on the Axemen, kind of scene. So it's like they knew that you knew how to react around cameras and things like that. You weren't just going to shy away and all that stuff. Yeah. But I mean, when it comes to TV, they're looking for characters, like that's what they're looking for. I my other podcast is a paranormal show where I interview people on their experiences, anything from UFOs to aliens, Bigfoot, whatever. And it's a really big show. And I have TV people that contact me a couple times a year. In fact, it just happened 2 weeks ago. I had a lady in New York City. They're doing a TV show and they're looking for somebody to be a co-host. And last year somebody asked me to be a host, but they're looking for people who have character, whether it's, off the wall or they know they can communicate and things like that. And so seeing you on video and hearing you talk right now, it's like, yeah, Todd Dewey is one of the guys that we want on our TV show.
Hey, it's really funny that you say something about a paranormal show that you do too, because one, you know what, and I've asked Jeff Meredith, one of the head guys for original productions out of California, if we could find that picture, and I have never been able to find a picture. One of my camera guys one time way up in the, damn near at Santa Claus's freaking house. That far up north, in the middle of nowhere, on the ice roads. We parked for a night, and the brake lights were on my truck in the snow with the aurora lights in the sky, and it was a really cool picture. So me and Jason, my producer, got out of the truck and we set up this 5D camera. They have these really expensive cameras. These things take amazing pictures. They don't have flaws in them. They're amazing, right? So he took a bunch of pictures. They're really cool. So when we got back on that trip, one photograph that popped up, and I'm not shitting you in any way, and I'll never forget it, because I'm not a paranormal person. I don't really swing that way. But after seeing this picture on the ice roads in the trees, when they zoomed in on it really close, there's a green object, and it looked just like a green alien head with eyes and the whole thing looking out from behind the tree. And none of us for the life of us could ever figure out how that got into the picture or why it was there. But it freaked us out. It was amazing. That's really funny that you bring up that story. It reminds me of that situation.
I'll tell you what, Todd, they were scouting you. The aliens were scouting you. They're going to steal your rig, man.
Yeah, they're probably thinking he's a logger like that movie Fire in the Sky. They're probably thinking about taking me up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
That's awesome.
The Ice Road Trucker Show has been a lot of fun because, of course, it was another situation. I'm usually here at the home. I do a lot of heavy hauling in the mountains here, local, big machinery. Of course, logs, way up in the deep mountains, in the snow and the mud, the ice, steep hills. So then that's why they asked me, hey, well, do you think you can handle the ice roads and driving across the frozen oceans and frozen lakes? And it'll be an experience. And, of course, I was up for the experience. And so the thing about the TV show is you always get a lot of flack. These guys are like, oh, these people they're not even real truck drivers. They're just actors. And that is not the case. We are real truck drivers. All of us are. I've been driving since I was 13 years old with my dad. You know what I mean? Wow. My whole entire life. And some of the situations on TV, they do kind of look, fake in a way or kind of set up or this or that. And I'm going to be totally honest, they are, because sometimes you can film for a week and nothing will happen. You know what I mean? But things do happen all the time up there. And it does happen. So sometimes if you want to get a good shot for the week or do something like this, we might set up a scenario on getting stuck, but trying to show the audience, well, here's what you got to do to be able to get yourself out if you do get in a situation like this. But then they just take it like it's all fake and all bullcrap. But it's not.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's called casting. And so, like, these TV companies, they're not going to cast a guy who's an introvert and doesn't talk. They're not looking for that guy. No.
They're not looking for someone that goes out there and just drives down the road all day long at 5 miles an hour and nothing happens all day long. It'd be boring. You got to show situations and get in the situations of what does happen or what could happen. One of my favorite moments on the TV show was actually showing everybody on the cast who didn't know how to do it, as well as everybody around the world about using your drivers for a portable winch with straps. If you are stuck, you can use your drivers to pull yourself out. And the reason I did that because I've had to do it here at home by myself when I'm up in the mountains on a Saturday afternoon, move some equipment in. I got the low bed, just me coming out. The low bed slides, low beds don't track very well on 90-degree corners that are just as wide as the truck with a cliff on one side. You know what I mean? The low bed always goes off down the embankment where once your truck goes around, just start grabbing gears. The low bed will go off the cliff, kind of drag down, but then it'll hit the other side and comes back up on the road. Well, sometimes it don't work out well and you get stuck. Well, how else are you going to get yourself out when you're by yourself? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely sounds like you need to be able to teach the experience and just pass it on. But yeah. I agree with you. I mean, like you guys on those shows never struck me as, and maybe it's because I do have a little bit of a background with dealing with these TV companies. Like you never struck me as actors. And some people I could see how they would think that, because how many they're thinking, you know, how many truckers are out there that would act like this? Well, there's a lot of us actually.
They never saw us in the truck at night.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's like, that's what I mean. Like it's casting, like they're literally looking for specific type of people that happen to have a CDL and the skill set. And so, you fit the bill, my friend, you fit the bill. And, it's just a very interesting life that we live as drivers. And, you know, with that said, you started out on Axemen and doing those roads. Have you ever hit a situation where you really didn't think you were going to get out of it?
Oh yeah, I can't even count how many times. One of the best times that we had, actually, they got caught on camera, but they didn't ever. We were actually going to film for a spin-off show, because I'll tell you guys something right now. I mean, the ice roads are the ice roads, and yeah, you got to drive on the ice a certain way. You need to check the thickness. You got to look for pressure cracks. You got to. You know, and there are situations where you get the really bad snowstorms and you can't, it's a complete whiteout. You're trying to cross a lake and you can't see which way you're going, and you don't want to get stuck in the snow on the lake because weight can't sit in one place. It has to be moving. And there is a lot of scary shit. But when you get up here near the Northwest, where our mountains and our roads are 20% grades at all times up and down the mountainside, I mean, half the time when I'm moving equipment in there, you got to get one machine moved to the bottom of the hill, then you go back to your next machine, then you get back to your next machine. He fires up the machine. You hook two great big chains between that and the front of your truck at 200,000 pounds behind the first shovel in front. And away you go up the hillside with the, pulling your low bed with another machine on it, with another machine pulling you to the top of the hill. I mean, and sometimes in the snow and of course the deep mud, and we're talking cliffs of 3,000 feet on each side at the top of the mountains. They're way worse scenarios than I've ever been on the ice road. So we actually talked to him, we were filming it. Actually, we talked to him, let's do a spinoff on hauling on these roads. Let's show these people what was actually done up here in the Northwest, how we do things. And I remember one specific time I had a camera guy with me and had the truck on. I had the low bed on. I had a great big, huge 3,200 bill Medill processor on there. Total weight of the total entire setup was 215,000 pounds. Came to a big, long, windy hill. And I was even thinking, I got to the bottom, I was like, oh, fuck, this. Sorry, I shouldn't be swearing, but oh my gosh, this is not, I was feeling nervous myself. But when I get nervous, I couldn't imagine what the other guy's thinking in the other passenger seats. I told him, I said, put your seatbelt on. Here we go. I mean, hold on. He's trying to film me while we're doing this. And we got about halfway up the hill. And I mean, I had a low, I get 675 horses in the truck I was using at that time. Had her in the lowest gear you can have, about 1,1600 RPM, and that baby was just pulling like nobody's freaking business. I mean, almost couldn't even steer when you get around the corners because it's trying to lift the tires off the ground because it's torquing so hard.
Wow. And
about the third corner we made, in between the tandems in the back, your drive line that hooks up your back axles in your truck, that son of a gun broke loose, and it swung around and took out both my brake lines on that set of my very back tandem axle on the truck, and the old air pressure gauge just started going down, and I knew that we were going to come to a stop. And I immediately just jammed all the brakes, pulled both my brake settings out, pulled the Johnson bar down, had the pedal just mashed to the floor, and I was screaming at the camera guy, hold the brake, because I was worried about getting out of the truck so I could immediately put the low bed on the ground, the low bed, get the low bed lowered down on the ground because that would hold me on the hill instead of rolling backwards. And I was yelling at the guy, hold the brake, and I wanted to push on the pedal so he could hold the brakes. I could get out the truck and lower the low bed. He looked at me and said, you are out of your frickin' mind. He opened the door and that dude failed. I was in there by myself. Oh, truck started to roll backwards. I lost all my air, all my brake. The brakes weren't going to hold on the truck. Even the maxes when they set, they ain't going to hold yet. 215,000 pounds on that grade of a hill. So I just turned the steering wheel, let the truck go right into the ditch to the bank on the left side instead of the cliff side, and just kind of buried it in there and brought it to a stop. But that was a pretty hairy experience.
Yeah, that sounds like a real hairy situation that you were in. And, I've never even experienced anything close to that. And now, what area of the country are you logging or pulling these logs out of?
Okay, well, the easy way to explain it, you ever remember that movie, that little saga that came out with the Twilight with the vampires? It was done in Forks, Washington.
Yep. Yes, I know. My wife has watched every one of those.
That's where I live at. I'm
Okay.
in Port Angeles, but I'm in Port Angeles is about 40 minutes, half hour away from Forks, but I kind of live right in between. So every morning when I fire up one of the trucks and I head to work, I mean, that's where you go. You go right up to Forks, Washington, right up in the mountains from there, out there in the national rainforest, up in the high country out there. And there's lots of, I mean, basically we're just surrounded by mountains out here in the Northwest.
Now, Todd, with you driving out there in these dangerous situations, do you come across other drivers that maybe they're inexperienced or maybe they're just stupid and they literally are putting you or other people in danger because of how they're reacting to the elements?
Oh, that's a year-round situation. So nowadays, we would take it a little more serious with how tight insurance has got, how much of a big deal it is now. And of course, the feds come in and audit us all the time when you have any type of, wrecks and issues, and they start thinking, oh, we're going to go, and they go through all your crap. It just gets to be a pain in the butt. But nowadays, with the wind, especially the log trucking, I mean, I'm not saying that nobody knows, but I mean, you could be an on-haul, on the highway hauler your whole life, and I'm sure you're one hell of a trucker. You've been through lots of experience with snows and blizzards and storms and caught on highways. I mean, I get it. I understand 100% how stressful it can be. But up here in the Northwest, when you got a loaded logging truck and you're coming off the mountainside in 2 feet of snow and ice, it's just a lot more scary of a situation. And a lot of guys show up, hey, no, I've been driving a truck for 10 years. I've been long hauling back and forth from Washington to California. It's like, okay, well, do you have any experience hauling off road though? I mean, do you have ever been off? Well, no, but I know how to drive a truck. It's that those words now don't really mean anything. It's like, okay, what I will do, I'll hire you, but I'm going to ride in the truck with you for a week up in the mountains and make sure you know exactly what you're doing and how to take a hill, what percentage grade it is, and how to go down and make sure you're in the right proper gear. Because those trucks we haul 100,000 pounds plus on those log trucks. When you get to a grade down the hill, you're not going to take it out of gear and shift it into a lower gear. You ain't going to have time because then it spits out speed too quick, and then you don't get it in gear, and then you go on the brakes melt down, and then you're either dead or hurt going to the hospital at the end bottom of the hill. I mean, it happens all the time. We've had it. Out of our company, I'm going to say probably twice a year, even with our experienced truck drivers. Luckily, they don't get hurt, but we do get at least 2 trucks a year that get wrecked and totaled up in the woods.
It's a whole different world, even from what I'm doing. I'm one of those guys that's on line haul between terminals. I would never think in my head that I could do what you do without doing it for a while and getting some experience doing it. That's what sometimes what baffles me.
It's just a totally. Oh, absolutely. It's just a different set of rules. Is all it is. I mean, the mountain roads are just as wide as your truck. I mean, your steer tires are right perfect on the edge of each side of the road when you're going out of those. So when you're going around a corner, it's been snowing and raining for months. I mean, heavy snow and rain for months, and you're going around a corner at 100,000 pounds, and it's always a natural reaction to try to get the front of the truck over as far as you can to make the corner to keep your trailer tracking with the truck perfect,
right,
so that your trailer stays on the road. All it takes is just a bit of time to get off there, a couple 2-3 inches, just a little bit too far over into the soft dirt where it's all saturated, and your truck just freaking sinks down. And once it sinks down, then you can't get up out of there, and your trailer catches that same rut, and your trailer goes over. As soon as that trailer flops over, it's taking the truck with you, and it's just over a 4-inch driving mistake.
Right, exactly. That's why you have to have a certain amount of respect for guys that are willing to do that, and for guys who do that, and understand that what they're doing in the world that they live in is totally different from the, like you said, the highway driver. I mean, it and even that, that it's a different world from cars, from people driving in their cars, and people think, well, they cut you off here and left and right when you're driving on the highway. But I can't imagine being up on top of a mountain trying to drive down with 100,000 pounds of trees or anything else. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. So everything has it's its own little world. It's its own world of disaster and danger, and at the same time, it's exhilarating and can be really fulfilling as far as that goes. You know, it's amazing.
Yeah, we had a guy that brings up another question. We had a guy, I want to say 2-3 years ago. No, it was 4 years ago, because it was right before Gabe got killed. Gabe calls me up and he says, "Hey, I got a new driver for that red Pete out there." I said, "All right, well, what do you want me to do?" He goes, I said, "Does he need to get trained?" He goes, "Oh, no. He's the he's the CDL trainer for the college in Bremerton. So he was the the guy that in the CDL course that you go down to do the school and get your CDL.
Right.
He said he's been doing that for 10 years. He knows how to drive a truck. I said, okay, well, then I got a spot for him out here in the West End. He can go out there and haul off adjacent side out there. Okay, perfect. Well, here's his number. So I called him up, set it up with this guy that Monday morning, be out there, 4:30 a.m. in the morning. Got to leave town about 2:30. Get out there 4:30, get a load. You'll be on your way. Okay, perfect. So this guy shows up, first day in the truck, first load, goes to the top of the mountain, gets a load of wood, coming down off the hill, and did not put it in the right gear for the hill to take it down there. Brakes got hot, truck started taking off, and here's the kicker. He took somebody with him on his first day to work that he was training to drive truck. I don't know why he would do this, but he brought a guy with him to train on his first day at his job, hauling wood. They come down the hill, too high a gear, brakes get too hot, they can't stop the truck. The driver, the CDL guy looks at the other kid, says, jump! They both jumped out of the truck. The truck went to the bottom of the hill and frickin' just totaled it.
Wow.
That's a true story, I swear on the Bible. I mean, his first day, first job, the CDL guy didn't even make it one trip and totaled the truck.
Oh my word! And what baffles you is that he's basically. I mean, I realize he's been driving truck for a long time and he's training people, but in a job like that where he's never done it before, he's basically a trainee, and he's a trainee bringing in a trainee.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
that makes absolutely no
and then
sense.
when he had somebody else with him, we could not believe it.
Wow.
I was just flabbergasted, and that was one of the turning points. Okay, that's it. We're done. No more of this. I know how to drive truck. We're just one of us experienced drivers that have been doing this for years and years in the woods can just ride with them for a week. It's better than having a wrecked truck. Just have them ride with them. Make sure to use the right gears for the right grades, taking the right speeds on these roads, how to drive it. So we just don't mess with it anymore. We just ride with them.
Oh my word! Yeah, I mean that is how that it shows how easy it is to take what you know and think that you can do something that somebody else knows how to do. Even in the same industry, doing the same type of work, to think that I've been training people to drive truck on the highway, I can do this, and then show up and do something like that.
That's just a different story.
Yeah, it
and
totally.
The thing about
different.
it is we're in the same boat as you guys driving long haul truck. I mean, it's hard to find drivers anymore, and usually you'll find somebody, someone who's got a little bit of ambition, like, yeah, I want to drive truck and haul wood. And you get them out there a couple, 2-3 days, and then you get the phone call. They say, I just can't do this. It's too much. It's too stressful. I can't do it.
Yeah, they don't know what they're asking for. So we're in the same boat.
It's hard to find drivers.
Oh my word, I can imagine. It's tough enough in the industry that we're in doing what we do, and then to actually add the extra level of danger. I mean, it's just. To be honest with you, I've been driving for almost 30 years, and I don't think I would want to do that. That's just me, and that's not because I'm a chicken. It's because I know my own limitations.
Yeah, and when you grow up with it your whole entire life, it just becomes a job. It's just an everyday job of going up and dealing with it, and you don't even think about it after you've been doing it for so long. It's just part of your life.
You were born into it. And so, I mean, it's just something that's natural for you. This is something that, is something that, what else are you going to do? I think I even heard you say it on one of the videos that I was watching and stuff. You're just like, it's like your wife. It's just, you're married to it, And so, I totally understand it. You being on the Ice Road Truckers and stuff, when you're up there, on the TV show, now I know there's theatrics involved and things like that, but how dangerous really is it crossing these lakes that are frozen?
My first year, I was a little bit nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, when you first initially, now they do have regulations up there. You can't just haul whatever weight you want to, because the ice only holds so much weight, which is a good thing. And of course, nobody, and especially the History Channel they're working for, they don't want anybody to die on their watch or actually really go through and die. So they really make sure you're hauling the right weight and it's all proper. And they do have guys who go out with these sonar things. They'll check the thickness of the ice and make sure that's a certain thickness for a certain amount of weight. And but it is really nerve-wracking your first year up there, and you get the first big ice crossing, and it's going to be a 5-hour ice crossing. You can't stop. You have to maintain. Up there, it's 50. They do it because it's in Canada where we were filming at. So you got to go by km. So 15 km, which is about 7 miles an hour. And you got to maintain that speed. You don't want to go any faster, because if you go faster, it creates a double ripple. And if another truck is crossing from the other side, you can't see. And that big ripple goes out in front of you that you created, and his ripple that he's created, then they hit right in the middle, when those two big waves underneath hit, it causes a really bad pressure, and if you push up through and bust the ice, you see what I'm saying? So you really want to maintain your speed and just keep that 7 miles an hour going across there. And when you first initially roll off the land onto the ice, you can feel the whole truck and your whole body like do a little bit of wave where the water is squishing and the whole ice kind of ripples. And it's kind of an eerie feeling, to be honest with you. You can feel it like you know what I mean? Like just like in a boat when you're just a little bit of rock and you can feel the whole truck doing that with the ice and you can see it moving. And then you hear the really loud popping and cracking. And you can see the cracks pop apart. It is nerve-wracking. You're like, holy shit, this is scary. You know what I mean?
It sounds
But then
scary.
you start to learn. Once you start to learn it, I mean, the actual ice popping and cracking, that's actually a good thing because then you know the ice is really strong and solid. When you don't hear it cracking, that's when you really want to start getting nervous that maybe you shouldn't be on it. It might not be ready. So once you start learning all these little techniques and the pressure ridges and what to steer away from, and then you do it for years and years, you just start getting used to it. And you don't even really think about it anymore. But it's TV, so even though you've been doing it for years, they still want you to play up the "I'm scared, this is nerve-wracking." But your body, you do get used to it. I mean, but your first couple of years of doing it is kind of nervous. It is spooky.
Yeah, it's like, jeepers, I'm so scared. Oh, no.
But, I mean, they happen. There's been a couple times filming, but they're not allowed to put it on the TV because the tribes up there, those reservations that we're hauling to, those remote villages, they don't like it being. Some of them won't even let you film in their communities. Some of the stuff that we've done and some of the things that have happened, they haven't been allowed on the show because the communities won't allow you to film. They won't allow it. They're really, really, and it's hard to explain. I guess the easy way to explain it so you get the sense of it is, one time we're filming up there years ago, we went in a community because these people up there, they're not used to seeing TVs and cameras and all this type of stuff. I mean, they don't even have running water. You know what I mean? They melt water by their fireplaces for the drinking water through the whole winter seasons. I mean, it's not remote. And one kid, I don't ask me why or for what reason, but they went up there and the camera crew got out and started filming and they weren't supposed to be filming. And some kid up there decided that he wanted to be on TV so bad, he brought his little brother out to the middle of the road in front of the cameras and shot him with a shotgun.
Wow.
And don't ask me why or for what reason anybody would think of doing something like that, but it really truly happened. And it was a big lawsuit because the camera people got out. They weren't supposed to get out with their cameras. And so it gets that crazy up there sometimes. So it's a crazy world up in some of them villages.
I can imagine. And so you're talking this guy, who'd you say it was, his brother?
His brother. He brought his little brother out and shot him with a shotgun in front of the camera so he could be on TV.
And so he does this, and the camera people, what'd they do that created the lawsuit? They actually intervened in the situation?
No, they just because they got their cameras out and they were already told not to do any filming on their reservation.
I got you. Okay, so because they started filming the situation.
Yeah, they were filming, and then the kids ran out, and of course they had the cameras going, and then I'm sure it got filmed. And then it was a big. I wasn't there at the time this happened. It was another crew that was up there where this took place. And so some of the communities are really against doing any filming up there. So some of the situations that have happened at that, we haven't even been able to show on TV.
Yeah, that's incredible. I never really thought about that as far as like the natives and stuff up there not wanting to be on TV and what could have happened that didn't even make the cut. That's very.
Yeah, there's lots of things. There's lots of other things. Like the main thing when you get up there, like your 911 for your fuel tank so that your fuel don't freeze up and it keeps all your water coming and all that type of stuff for real cold temperatures. I mean, that stuff's all made out of alcohol. You don't want to leave any of that stuff out because at night when you're parked on close to a village, the people there will come and they'll steal it so they can drink it.
Wow.
I'm dead serious. You don't want to have any gasoline jugs with gasoline on your back, your little generators, because we have to take 5-gallon gas cans clear full of, I don't know, probably 15 of them that we put in the back of the truck. We change down stuff like that because the chase car comes with us making fuel. And most of the time you're so far up there, there's nowhere to get fuel. So in order to do a run, they have to have enough fuel to where they keep filling up their SUV. Well, they'll take the gas so they can up your gas and do all. It's just crazy. It gets pretty wild up there.
Wow, that's really incredible. I never would even thought that would be an option on the table for people to do.
And then sometimes you show up someplace like that, and they'll actually tell you, listen, when you get to the community, make sure it's the daytime, deliver your load, and then get back out on the ice road. Do not stay in the community. It's like, okay. So basically, if you get in there and you can't get your load dumped, you need to figure out how to turn around and go back on the ice road at least 50, 60 miles outside of town, find somewhere to park for the night, and then go back the next day and see if you can deal your load. The reason being is they don't want white guys on their property, on their Indian land way up there. But it's weird because, wait a minute, we're bringing them their food so they can survive throughout when the winter's gone, and they have no access to live, and they don't want us on their property. And it happened a couple times. It happened twice to our crews out the years I was there. The chase car vehicle would be in the community putting gas in their SUV while I'm getting unloaded or doing whatever. And they'd actually get jumped by a group of teenage thugs or whatever, and they'd rob them. I mean, they'd flat rob them.
Wow, so you got thugs everywhere in this world, huh?
It's unbelievable. And I mean, we're taking the supplies of these communities, but the thing about it is we can't talk about that on TV or when we're filming, because then they won't let us do our filming up there because they don't want to be portrayed on TV as this type of shit happening. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's kind of like a political thing. You got to see. They don't want none of that on there. They just want it. But that's why they really live up some of the communities, of course, love us. They'll put on a dinner or some ritual for us when we get up there and a powwow for us, and they're really excited that the ice truckers are coming in and bringing them supplies, which is wonderful. But some of the other communities, they ain't like that.
That is amazing. It's amazing to think that there's no safe place, really. I mean, there really is no safe spaces anywhere, even way, way, way up north.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Dad, that there is no safe spaces. I mean, Todd, you're out there dealing with the elements, dealing with the snow, the ice, the wind, all that stuff, worrying about, your truck breaking down and are you going to have heat if you break down? All that stuff is going in a real life environment. And then on top of it, you got to worry about thugs up north. Like, that's just... I mean...
You're worried about going to sleep and then waking up with your truck lit on fire when they're trying to burn your truck to the ground.
What is this world coming to when we can't even trust the Canadians up north, eh? I mean, come on, my friends. Come on. Show some love, all right? Yeah. We're trying to do a TV show here.
But don't get me wrong. Though. There are a lot of great people up there, too. We've had a lot of great times. And one of my big things was when I went up always to go up north to a community where I knew they loved us, and all the little kids would come running out when you come rolling in with your truck and you got all their food supplies. And I'd stop at Costco's or Walmart in Winnipeg before I left on my big long run. I'd buy a bunch of bags of candy and pop because they don't have pop and stuff up there in those communities. It just don't happen very often. So I'd buy cases of soda, Coca-Cola, and bags of candy, little kids, and give it to them while they just make them happy as hell. And then that would actually make the trip worthwhile.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. That is neat. Those are things that we take for granted down here. We take for granted that all these things
100%.
My word, what would life be like? And there's actually really places on in North America that are like that. So that's actually really neat.
Yep. Todd, you sent me a picture when you and I were going back and forth with trying to figure out a date to do this. And you said that this was your current situation. And I just want to draw the picture out for the audience here. This is the kind of stuff that Todd is doing today. Like, it's legit. Todd sends me a picture of his truck. Like, he's in the driver's seat and he sends me, and I'm sure you were parked, Todd. We'll just put that out there. Okay. You took a picture of, you were on a slope, snow-covered logging road. There was a truck in front of you. I mean, everything was white. It was tons of snow, and you were pulling 100,000 pounds downhill. And I was like, You gotta be kidding me. Like honestly, I'm in the Philadelphia area. Me and my dad are in the Philadelphia area. And when we get a snowstorm out here, I mean, if we got like 8 inches on the ground, I'm like, hey, dispatch, I'm bringing it in because I'm not dealing with this no more. That's what I do. Like if there's like 8 inches of snow on the ground, I'm calling it a day. I'm making my way back to the terminal. You're out there with 100,000 pounds going down a mountain, not up, down a mountain with 100,000 pounds and snow-covered logging roads. That's insane, my friend. That's insane.
Yeah, it is insane. And to be really quite honest for you, a lot of there is a lot of truckers, of course, who say, hey, I got snow chains on my truck, but that's only to get home. That's not to go out and unhaul and try to get wood in. But the thing about it up here is that's where we live at. We live in the mountains. We get a lot of snow, especially through all the winter months. We just can't shut down. You just can't do it. I mean, how are all these people going to take care of their families? And I mean, you not just got us hauling wood. You got the guys out there logging, trying to shovel log, trying to fall timber, trying to bunch, trying to, get the trucks loaded, do all that. I mean, they're fighting it too, and they don't want to have time off. And nobody makes any money unless those logs get to the mill. Otherwise, nobody's making any money and nobody's getting paid out of the whole entire logging operation.
Yeah.
So it's vital that, usually you get up there in the morning, Monday morning or whenever the snow hits, like, gosh, yeah, here we go again. You start getting to get deeper and deeper. You stop. Train all those hot drivers up, train your steers up, and just start trucking in there and just make a pass. And then I'll turn around the top of the hill and come back down empty and just keep, building like a little rut in there and try to get a little rut built in there. And then the other trucks will get up in there and then we'll all get loaded and just take our time just coming down out of there. And the only thing you can do is when she starts sliding, just put it in the ditch a little bit. Not, of course, that you can always favor the hillside, not the cliffside. And just put her in the ditch a little bit, and she'll come to a stop. And then just barely idle out of the little hole, get back on the road, and she'll slide another 10 or 15 feet down and just back in the ditch again until you get to the bottom of the hill. You just work it out. That's the way you do it.
Wow, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Todd, with what you're describing, you're clearly you're in the trucking industry. Okay. So I'm in the trucking industry. My dad's in the trucking industry. But you're also in a different industry at the same time. Like it's different. But it
is different.
You spend time in the truck and if you're anything like me, I mean, you're alone in the truck, and you have a lot of time to think about things and what, where the industry's going, about life and all that stuff. Where do you think the trucking industry is going right now? Because there's a lot of people talking about automation. I don't think automation would affect your job because I don't see a truck climbing a mountain the way you do. But what do you...
Yeah, you see, that's one of the different jobs like we were talking about either. It's two different type of trucking careers, like the long hauling and working in the mountains, hauling in the woods. You have to remember too, we don't have logbooks. We don't have to run logbooks. Where we are exempt from that rule because of the fact it's a 100-mile radius from your business. You don't have to run a logbook. Now, for some odd reason, once in a blue moon, we'll get a log haul that's got to go from here, let's say, down to Oregon. So it's a 5-hour drive from where we live to Oregon on the highway. Then you got to have a logbook. You need to do it like a little e-log thing on your phone or just write down something because then you're ways away from your business. But other than that, all us log truck drivers around here, it's just right in our backyard in the mountains. So there's no log books. You don't have to run log books. You don't have to deal with all that crap. You just go to work every day and work. So it is a big difference for us.
One of the things that I've been listening to is this. You're talking about being up in the mountains, and I just want to dispel the whole eastern United States and especially the Pennsylvania idea of what mountains are. I'll be honest with you, Todd. Here's where it is. On Route 80 in Pennsylvania, there is a sign at the top on Clearfield Mountain there. It's part of the Alleghenies. It says the highest point east of the Mississippi, and it's 1,250 feet. So when you're talking mountains,
where my home is right now, right where I live at, where I'm standing in my yard right now, we're at 1,000 feet or better elevation.
And I wanted to throw that out there because it really kind of makes me laugh. When you're talking mountains, you're talking mountains out there. When we talk mountains here in PA, it's like it's a hill.
10,000. And we get up anywhere around 10,000 feet elevation.
Right. It's amazing. I just wanted to throw that out there and just kind of give people who don't live out on the West Coast an idea of when you're talking mountains, you're talking mountains. We talk mountains around here, yep. And it's more like a hill.
Yeah. Yep. And most of our roads that we truck on, or some of them even a lot of time are freshly built because we log. Of course, we get different parts of the mountains where they've never been logged or touched before yet. Well, you still got to build your own roads in there and build your own spur roads in. So a lot of the roads are still green. I mean, they're not even hard packed roads yet. So you get a good road built, and then a little snowstorm moves in, and then it melts a little bit, and all that water gets into that green road. Then it starts raining. That road just turns into nothing but a mud mess. So then you're back in there getting loaded. By the time you get you loaded, your front axle's already buried into the road. I mean, you can't even hardly move. So then they got to get the skidder out. And they got to hook a chain to the front of you, and away you go. You start pulling and yanking on you. Sometimes you got to put two skidders out front with a chain hooked to your bar in the front of your bumper, and they pull you. They just pull you all the way out of the spur road until you get on some good roads, and they'll let you go.
Unreal, man. That's unreal. I mean, like,
you can just feel it. So you can look out your window, you can see the mud just piling up in front of the fuel tank and just pack it in. It's just like, oh my gosh. You're just waiting for something to break or an airline to pull off or yank off, but that's just what we do. That's just a normal day every day go to work.
Yeah, and that's you punching the clock and just doing your thing. I mean, and to be honest with you, some of the things you're describing and stuff, I don't think it even translates to TV very well, because what you're giving, the detail and stuff of what you go through, I mean, you can see it on TV, but they got to edit it and stuff like that for TV, but you lose something in that, and you lose a little bit of the detail, and
you really do.
You sharing it, I mean, it really kind of paints a picture of, just how serious this is. And, I don't envy you whatsoever. And, when I was younger and I, just got my Class A and I was excited and I was watching you guys on TV and I'm telling my wife, hey, I'm going to do this one day. She's telling me no. Like, I was glamorizing it. I was like, I want to do this. I know I can do it, all that stuff. Nah, I don't think I can. I mean, you're a different breed, my man. You really are. And, Todd, I wanted to ask you this question, and I kind of, you and I talked about it before we even went live. This job, it's a dangerous job, and you did a great job describing how dangerous it can be, off-road and doing the ice roads and things like that. But, we also deal with the idea of, we're pulling a nuke down the highway and we have all these missiles flying around us all the time. And our job is to make sure that our giant nuke of a bomb doesn't touch any of these little missiles and create a giant explosion. And unfortunately for you, you had an unfortunate incident where something had happened last year. And I was just wondering if you'd be willing to share what happened out there last year.
Yeah, and that just, and a lot of times when you've been driving truck for 20 plus years, let's say, you've never been in a wreck, you've never wrecked a truck, but really ever being in a wreck or been a bad situation, especially on the highway, I mean, in the mountains, you think about it all the time. Oh, I might lay a truck over today. Oh, I might flip a truck over. Oh, I better be ready. But you never think just driving down the road that something bad is going to happen. It's because you get so used to just cruising down the road. You got a radio talk show like you guys turned out, you're listening to it, cruising down the highway, you just don't think about it. And beginning of this last year of January 9th of 2018, at 4 o'clock a.m. in the morning, I went up I was up early actually that morning, up there at the top of the mountain about 1:30 a.m. in the morning, and got a load. And I took it all the way to Shelton. Once I hit the highway up the mountain, it's about a 2.5 hour drive down to Shelton. I was almost to Shelton. It was just dark outside, raining like a SOB. I mean, just downpouring. Bad visibility in the first place, and I was just cruising down the road, 102,000 pounds, exactly what I had on. And I remember seeing this little car, just in the middle of nowhere, just a single lane highway, just one way east. That's it. And I was doing all the 55, 60 miles an hour, and I seen this little car come to the top of the hill, and I just saw another car. Well, anybody's first reaction in those conditions when it's raining and poor visibility, you start looking for that white line, on your right side of the road. Make sure that you're following that white line, you're keeping it right in your lane. And I looked at that white line, I kept looking at the car, looking at the white line, and making sure I was right, perfectly straight. And right at the very last second, it just happened so freaking fast. This car just turned right over and right in front of me, and it was a head-on collision. I mean, that truck was parked completely. It put the motor, and it was a 4-seat car, four-door car. It put the motor damn near in the trunk of the car. That's all that was really left of the car. And unfortunately there was 2 people in it, and it killed 2 people. And that's something at 4:30 in the morning, getting out of your truck, nobody else around, a car underneath your truck. You go around to look. It's just not something you want to see at that time in the morning. And it was one of the most spookiest and it was situations that I've ever been in. And of course, and in this day and age with trucks, and it's sad to say this, even though it wasn't my fault, they make you feel like it is all your fault because you have a CDL and you're in a truck and it's all your fault that you're proven innocent. And it was the most worst feeling that I've had my entire life. I mean, they, of course, they do all the drug screening, and of course, I wasn't drinking. I don't do drugs. Of course, I don't. That's just not part of my life. But and these two people that were in this car, were higher than a kite. They were on the heroin. I think the police officer said later down the road after filling out the report, and they said that they felt the whole situation that it was a suicide by truck because of the fact. There was no brake marks. There was no. I mean, they just literally turned into me right at the very last second. So they figured that they were either fighting and arguing, something was going on, or something that they had going on, and that's why they did what they did. But I mean, they made me feel like I was in. I mean, the DOT came, went through every single thing on that truck, like it was going to be my fault. That the truck, I was right on weight. All my brakes were in specification. I mean, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the truck. But they still made me feel like I was the bad guy until the very end when, weeks later, once all their autopsies came back and proved what actually was truly going on. But I tell you what, it just goes to show that, in a split second, it can happen to anybody, anywhere, at any time.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. It can. And the sad thing is that you wind up carrying that for the rest of your life. Just the thought of what went on, even though it wasn't your fault. And believe me, I'm with you.
I'll be honest with you guys. Even now, when I get up in the morning, I even think about it now. And I've heard of it west on that highway, and it's just we don't have a lot of traffic around. There's just not a lot. It's just a small community. I'm heading on that highway. It's pouring down rain, pouring down snow. I see some headlights coming. The first thing pops my eyes, and when they start getting closer, I'm thinking, "Don't do it! Don't do it! Don't do it!" I still to this day, I'm thinking that.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's one of the things that so many people don't understand driving around trucks, and maybe it's just that people become so numb to it, they don't think about what the consequences are in driving around a big truck. It's crazy the consequences that can happen, and people don't. They think you can stop on a dime. They think you can avoid them somehow, and you just can't. And that's what they don't understand. And to carry and it's always, I mean, I get it. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I'm with you 100% on that. Those are just things that you can't afford to. In the job that we do, you can't afford to drink. You can't afford to do drugs.
Absolutely not.
No.
Here's a sad situation about it. Let's say I was a weed smoker once in a blue moon. It's legal in our state. I mean, everybody now smokes weed. It seems like, and it's hard to find people who don't smoke weed to drive. Let's just say I was. So let's say 2 weeks before, whenever I went out and had a beer and had a puff with my buddies one night. If that would have been the case, and my drug test would have came back with that pot in there, that whole entire wreck would have been my fault. Yes, exactly. That's why we understand that in the industry you can't do it. You can't even do it recreationally, like you said. It's going to come back on you one way or the other. That's right. Yep.
So Todd, let me ask you a question. You just brought that up, the whole weed thing, and this is something that I've been thinking about a lot. With our industry and stuff here in Pennsylvania, it's not legal for recreational. It's barely legal for medical use. And what is the official laws out there where you're at when it comes to drivers with CDLs and using recreational marijuana?
Yeah, absolute zero tolerance still, which is I'm glad the state kept it at that. They did keep it. I mean, if you hold a CDL, it's zero tolerance. I don't know what your guys' alcohol part of it is, but if you hold a CDL in our state, it's legal to be driving under a .08. So you can have a couple beers and it'd be fine. But if you hold a CDL, it's only a .04. So if you have a couple beers in 1 hour, you get a DUI. And the weed part of it is it's perfectly legal, 100%. You can grow a plant at your house if you want to. You're allowed to have a weed. I think it's an ounce of weed on you at all time. Anybody's allowed to use it. I mean, even in our little tiny community we have, our little town of Port Angeles, I think there's 10 weed stores. You can buy whatever you want to buy.
Jeez. Okay.
I'm serious. You just want to drive. I could drive my pickup right now, drive downtown. I could go buy sticker bars and edible candies and soda pop with weed in it. Those stores have it all. I mean, you can buy any type of weed you want up to an ounce and have it on you at all times. It's perfectly 100% legal. But if you hold a CDL, zero tolerance. So and our drivers get pops on a regular basis. Just the surprise UAs. Probably out once every couple 2-3 months. You get a surprise UA. And if there's any weed in your system at all, you're losing your license.
Yeah, and that's something I was always concerned about and thinking about, because I was always curious as to how they handle it for the drivers out there, and because it's also foreshadowing, because eventually it's going to become legal recreationally nationwide. It's bound to happen, and when it does happen, I was wondering how they would handle it here. But if that's how they're handling it out there, I imagine they'll follow suit here with that.
I'm sure all truckers anywhere, shape, or form, or that's going to be a zero tolerance. It's going to be and you don't lose your license forever. And our state, they just recently made it a new rule in Washington that if you do get a second DWI, you lose your CDL indefinitely. You never can get it back. So after 2 DUIs, they take it from you. You're not going to get it back. The same with the weed situation. So if you get busted for smoking weed or drinking, any type of drug, I guess it would be, then you do lose your license for a year for your first time, and you got to go through some treatment classes and go through whatever the courts are going to tell you got to go through. Then you can get your license back after that year. The only thing is, when you go to get it back, and the only way to get it back now is you got to go through the schooling and pay your $5,000 for your schooling, get your license back on top of it.
Wow.
So they do have lots of rules and regulations. So So it just ain't worth it, guys. Anybody out there listening? It just ain't worth it. If you like to drive a truck, just stay away from it.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. It's just be responsible. I mean, we're paid to be professionals out there, and when we have anything in our system, we're no longer the professional that we should be. Even if you think you're a great designated driver or drunk designated driver, some people call it the DDD, whatever it is. But it doesn't matter. Just be professional, and that's one of the things we were trying to pursue with the show as well, is because we're going to have a lot of truckers listening to the show, but we have a lot of people who are not listening to the show as from our perspective and vantage point, and we're trying to educate people as to what it's like being a truck driver out in the road with these cars flying around us and what we're dealing with. Like, for instance, and you've dealt with this, and my dad has, I have as well. You're driving in heavy rain. You look in your mirrors, you can't see a damn thing in the mirrors.
You can't see nothing.
You can't see anything.
Nope.
And so when you're in the rain and there's cars out there, they don't have the headlights on because it's daytime and they think they're fine. Listen, like, we can't see you at all. And if we got to change lanes and you don't have your lights on and the rain's hitting our mirrors, we can't see you. And that's just an accident waiting to happen. So just simple things like
every day,
just turn your headlights on, my friends. Just turn them on.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what a lot of other truckers are doing out there too, but I do know, like, on our fleet of trucks we have, we get a huge discount from insurance too. We now have all of our trucks have those dash cams, like a rear view mirror. Like, it sits up high in the truck, so it doesn't obstruct your vision at all for their drivers. And it records the second that truck starts. It starts recording, just because of the fact now, because you have so many, like you're talking about, cars in your blind spots, and all of a sudden they whip up in front of you and cut. I mean, literally right in front of the truck, and the sound it brakes on to make a turn where you can't stop in time. You're going to hit them. All those type of situations that happen now, we get them recorded on video, so that when the officers show up, we just say, "Hey, here you go. Just watch this. I want to tell you what happened. Here's what happened." And it's really saved us a lot of times.
Oh yeah, that's something that is becoming more and more prolific in the industry. I know the company that we work for, they do the same thing. They have cameras in the trucks, looking out the front window, recording everything. If you hit your brakes too hard, recording. Yep. If you swerve, it records. If you hit your brakes too hard, it records. If anything happens, it records it. And you know what? It's as much to protect the driver as it is the company and everything around you. It could, because it's such a people we seem, because we do it for a living. Sometimes you get to a point where you become complacent in the truck, especially like I work at my job is to work at night going between terminals. So there's always a lot less traffic and all of that stuff going on, but it doesn't mean it's not as dangerous. It's just as dangerous as what Tony does during the daytime. That's nothing compared to what you do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to, that's like apples and oranges, but
I think it's a good idea for everybody to start using those cameras.
It definitely is. Yeah, it's a fantastic. It has, I can guarantee it has saved truck drivers' butts, countless times, because it is, people don't realize what they're doing in front of a truck is gonna result in the consequences that are gonna happen.
Todd, I appreciate you coming on the show and talking with us and hanging out and stuff. It's been great talking with you and hearing some of your stories, and I just want to say thank you very much for being here.
Oh, absolutely. Appreciate you having me on to talk about everything that goes on in this crazy world. I think it's only going to get crazier, and all we can do is try to drive safe keep it sane on the road, buddy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got that right. It was fun talking with you, Todd. I appreciate it too. You know,
Absolutely.
From truck driver to truck driver, it was
wonderful.
a lot of fun. We enjoyed this very much.
You betcha.
Well, that's the show, everybody. We really hope you enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, please share the show with your friends, because that is the best thing you can do to help the show grow. The more people that listen to the show, the more people that contact us with stories, means the more shows you have to listen to. So we're in it together. Help us help you. And until next week, friends, keep the hammer down in the hammer lane.
Right across these plains and prairies, rocky mountain highs, fade off into the distance like ghost riders in the sky. Black smoke and white line, steel horses side by side. It's more than just a living, y'all. Hell, it's our way of life. We're the last of the cowboys. Giddy up, gone boys. 18 wheels on the concrete. It's a slow and dying breed, rolling like Jesse James. A modern day outlaw game. If you're out here riding with me, come on back and make some noise. We're the last of the cowboys. It's a family tradition, diesels running through our veins. Our daddy showed us the ropes, we were born in the fast lane. Branded by our heroes, taught to saddle up and move. We keep this country rolling, we're damn proud of what we do. We're the last of the cowboys, the giddy up gone boys. 18 wheels on the concrete, it's a slow and dying breed, rolling like Jesse James. Modern day outlaw game. If you're out here riding with me, come on back and make some noise. We're the last of the cowboys. Third time generation. A little old school salvation. Blazing trails across this nation, from sea to shining sea. We're the last, we're the last, we're the last of the cowboys. We're the last of the cowboys. We're the last of the cowboys. The giddy up go boys. 18 wheels on the concrete. It's slow and dying breed, rolling like Jesse James. A modern day outlaw game. If you're out here riding with me, come on back and make some noise. We're the last of the cowboys.